turning the tide, why humanity's past adversaries now stand as loyal guardians. The catastrophic first contact. The year was 2274. Commander Rax Thorn, a seasoned officer of the Crixan Empire, stood tall in the command chamber of his vessel, the Pride of Vala. Around him, the polished black metal walls reflected the dim, pulsing light from control panels, a typical Crixan design, crafted to embody their core values of dominance, precision, and control. As one of the Crixan Empire's elite commanders, Rax had witnessed countless planetary invasions and subjugations, each more efficient than the last. The Crixan Empire was 5,000 years old, a relentless war machine that had swept across vast sectors of the galaxy, consuming any civilization that dared resist. And now, they had encountered Earth. Intelligence had dismissed humans as a minor threat, a primitive, young species barely venturing into interstellar travel. The Crixan leadership was unconcerned. This conquest was meant to be routine, a way to establish dominance over yet another territory. But Admiral Vex Blackclaw, a seasoned strategist with an instinctive knack for spotting weaknesses, found himself curious. Something about this assignment felt off. Commander Thorn, Vex's voice crackled over the comms. Humans are, admittedly, insignificant on the galactic scale, but they've developed surprisingly effective countermeasures for their limited resources. Observe closely and report any anomalies. I want this to be clean. Rax felt a prickle of excitement. The human defenses, however inadequate, would be an entertaining diversion. But the humans were ready. The ambush at Earth's border. When the Crixan ships emerged from their FTL jump, they encountered a flurry of activity. Human ships, primitive by Crixan standards, but organized in tight formations, pulsing with electromagnetic and kinetic weaponry. Though primitive, the human ship design was practical, their movements precise, as if they'd trained rigorously despite knowing how unmatched they were. At first, the Crixan fleet pushed forward, confident, but as they engaged, it quickly became clear that these humans had a tactical cunning far beyond their technological development. Commander, Rax's second-in-command, Officer Drawl, murmured, astonished. These humans, they're using unorthodox maneuvers. Human vessels swarmed them in tight clusters, using their ships as if they were extensions of a single, relentless force. They took advantage of their own ship's compact size and agility, moving in near-chaotic patterns that threw the Crixans off balance. Standard Crixan doctrine, reliant on superiority in tech and firepower, failed against this unanticipated resistance. Captain Thorn, a voice called through the comms, one of the human officers, defiant despite the odds. Your empire has no idea what it's unleashed. We didn't ask for war, but we will fight until our last breath to protect our home. Rax felt the words resonate deep within, an echo of something unfamiliar. The heroic stand at Proxima Centauri. Days later, news came in of a fierce resistance forming on the outskirts of human-claimed space. At the Proxima Centauri outpost, Admiral Vex ordered the Pride of Vala to rendezvous with a Crixan assault fleet to crush the humans' last line of defense. But Rax sensed this battle would be different. He had felt a twinge of unease, a realization that the Crixan Empire might have underestimated more than just human tactics. As the Pride of Vala approached the Proxima Centauri stronghold, sensors detected a powerful energy shield surrounding the human fleet, a crude but resilient barrier holding back the Crixan onslaught. Humans were adapting at an alarming rate, modifying their defenses and reorganizing faster than any previous enemy. It was as if each human soldier was a cog in a larger, evolving machine. Admiral, I'm seeing adaptive energy fluctuations across their fleet, Rax reported. They're learning. Vex's silence over the comm was palpable, an unspoken acknowledgement of the severity of the threat they faced. And then, she emerged, Commander Jessica Chen of Earth's Joint Defense Force. Her ship, a battered but reinforced cruiser, led the charge, breaking through the Crixan front lines with startling precision. She fought as though each attack was personal, as if the survival of her people rested solely on her shoulders. Commander Chen was unlike any opponent Rax had encountered. Each movement of her ship was a defiant stand against the overwhelming odds, and her tactics were brilliant in their simplicity. She did not rely on advanced technology or brute force. Instead, she used the Crixans' confidence against them, drawing them in, leading them astray, and then hammering them with coordinated fire. Over the comms, Chen's voice rang clear. To the Crixan Empire, my name is Jessica Chen. We may not have your technology, but we have something you'll never understand. This is our home. and I'll die before I let you take it. For the first time in his career, Rax felt a pang of admiration. Her bravery, her determination, it was something the Crixan Empire had drilled out of its soldiers long ago. Humans, however primitive, still had a spirit unbroken by millennia of conquest. The moment that changed everything. The battle raged on for hours, each side taking severe losses. Yet, as Rax observed from his command post, he sensed something shift. The humans weren't fighting out of desperation alone, they fought with loyalty, with pride in their species, and, more surprisingly, with compassion for each other. Human pilots often took extra risk to protect their comrades, maneuvering to shield weaker ships, even if it meant certain death. Amidst the chaos, Jessica Chen's ship took a fatal hit. Her damaged vessel began a spiral, its engines failing as it drifted toward the Crixan formation. With a surge of adrenaline, Rax watched as Chen's ship, alight with flames, barreled toward the Pride of Vala. Instead of fear, he felt respect. Her final act was a kamikaze attack aimed at crippling the Crixan flagship, despite her certain death. As her ship collided with the Crixan vessel's hull, a bright, consuming explosion shattered the quiet void of space. In that moment, an unthinkable silence fell over the battlefield, as if every soldier on both sides had stopped to pay homage to her bravery. Admiral Vex's voice shook over the comms. "We have underestimated them. Their resolve, it's not weakness, it's strength we can't replicate." For the first time, he felt the weight of his own pride collapse under the enormity of what he'd witnessed. "Commander Thorne, I think we need to reconsider what we're fighting for." Rax, staring at the remnants of Chen's ship floating like embers against the backdrop of space, nodded, a feeling of humility sinking into his core. A new perspective. In the days that followed, the Crixan Empire regrouped, licking its wounds and planning its next moves. Yet, the memory of that battle lingered. Commander Rax Thorne and Admiral Vex Blackclaw found themselves grappling with a new understanding of humanity. For millennia, the Crixans had viewed compassion and camaraderie as weaknesses, but after witnessing Chen's sacrifice and the unbreakable bond of the human forces, the Empire's leaders questioned their own doctrine. Could a species so unified, so capable of both fierce resistance and self-sacrifice, truly be conquered? In hushed council meetings, Vex's proposals began to take a startling turn. He suggested not another invasion, but a diplomatic initiative and alliance. His colleagues viewed him with skepticism, some outright contempt, but he no longer cared. Something fundamental had shifted in him, as it had for Rax. They had seen the power of humanity, and for the first time in Crixan history, they understood that some forces, like loyalty and compassion, were stronger than any weapon or imperial mandate. The path of conquest was obsolete, a relic. What lay ahead was a new purpose, a new chance for the Empire. And thus began the first steps toward the unthinkable, an alliance with humanity, forged not in dominance, but in shared respect and protection against the vast unknown. The battle that changed everything. The echoes of Commander Jessica Chen's sacrifice reverberated through the ranks of both humans and Crixans. As word spread, human forces saw her as a symbol, a rallying cry for the courage required to defend Earth. For the Crixan Empire, her death marked a painful shift. Commander Rax Thorne and Admiral Vex Blackclaw had been forever changed, but the full implications of their revelation had yet to ripple through the Imperial ranks. In the days following Proxima Centauri, humanity and the Crixan Empire seemed poised for a climactic showdown. While both sides regrouped, another, far greater danger began to loom on the galactic horizon, a threat that neither could survive alone. The rise of a greater threat. In the outer rim of Crixan territory, strange reports began trickling in. First, it was the loss of an outpost, then a second, followed by a third. Unusual radiation signatures and untraceable sensor readings hinted at an unknown force moving with deadly efficiency. The initial reports were dismissed by the Empire's High Council, but then entire fleets vanished without a trace. Whispers of a new enemy began spreading through the Crixan ranks. Back on Earth, scientists at the Joint Defense Force Monitoring Station intercepted encrypted Crixan distress signals from the rim. Earth's intelligence specialists decoded enough of the messages to realize the gravity of the situation. Whatever had obliterated the Crixan fleets was far deadlier than any human or Crixan weapon. Admiral Vex knew the Empire couldn't afford to face this alone, but a direct appeal to Earth seemed impossible. Yet, there was no other way. Pride could no longer be a factor, survival had to come first. Reluctantly, he prepared a transmission. The message from the Crixan Empire. In the underground command center at the Joint Defense Force headquarters, an urgent alert flickered to life on every screen. Senior officials gathered, wondering why an encrypted Crixan message would be sent directly to Earth's leadership. On screen appeared Admiral Vex Blackclaw, his usually stern gaze softened with an unfamiliar vulnerability. His black, slitted eyes glinted in the low light, his scales showing where that was rare for a Crixan leader. When he began to speak, his voice held none of the arrogance that humans had come to expect from the Crixan. To the leaders of Earth and the Joint Defense Force, he began, choosing his words carefully. I am Admiral Vex Blackclaw of the Crixan Empire. We have long seen your kind as weak, as unworthy of existence in this galaxy. And yet, your resilience has proven us wrong. Commander Jessica Chin showed us a strength we did not believe humans possessed. The room fell silent as his next words sent a chill through every heart present. There is a threat moving through our territory, a force unlike anything we have ever encountered. They are merciless, relentless, and do not discriminate. They will come for us, and after they are done with us, they will come for you. We have no choice but to offer an alliance. The Reluctant Alliance. A tense debate ensued among Earth's leaders. Many distrusted the Crixans, skeptical that this wasn't some ploy to weaken human defenses. But others argued that if the Empire, with its vast resources, had been brought to its knees, humanity would stand no chance alone. After hours of deliberation, a decision was made. A message was sent back, accepting the Crixan offer. The alliance was born, though fragile and fraught with mistrust. For the first time, Crixan warships entered Earth's orbit under peaceful terms. Joint strategy meetings commenced, with humans and Crixans sitting side by side, an uneasy truce binding them together against the Void Swarm, a name Earth's intelligence had assigned to the unknown enemy. The Void Swarm, as preliminary reports confirmed, was a hive-like force, an ancient and parasitic species that swept through galaxies, consuming everything in its path. Forging unity. The Joint Defense Force's best tactical minds, including former battlefield officers and strategic advisors, found themselves working alongside Crixan tacticians. One of the first to enter these talks was Commander Rax Thorn himself. He stepped into Earth's command center with cautious respect, greeted by stares from human soldiers who had previously faced him in combat. The room was filled with low murmurs and uneasy glances. Across from him, General Alan Reese, a tall, grizzled veteran of Earth's defense forces, studied the Crixan officer with intense scrutiny. He had fought against Rax's forces at Proxima Centauri, and a wave of resentment pulsed beneath his otherwise composed demeanor. But he reminded himself why they were here. Rax extended a clawed hand. It is an honor to fight alongside you, he said, surprising the humans with his respectful tone. Reese hesitated before clasping Rax's hand in a firm shake, ignoring the unsettling sensation of cold scales against his own skin. The honor, Commander, will be yours if you help us survive this. Thus began an unprecedented collaboration between human and Crixan minds, combining Earth's innovative, quick-thinking tactics with Crixan discipline and strategic precision. Preparing for the Battle of Unity, the combined fleet assembled near the edge of known space, at a staging ground chosen for its proximity to the last known Void Swarm incursion. Humans marveled at the scale of Crixan battleships, towering like dark monoliths, armed with weaponry that Earth's scientists could scarcely comprehend. In contrast, the Crixans eyed Earth's ships with suspicion, noting the modifications humans had made, unusual configurations, improvisational design choices, and weapons placed in odd positions. The humans called them failsafes, but to the Crixans, they seemed reckless. The human engineers set about adapting Earth's technology to the Crixan ships, adding shield generators modified to withstand the strange energy pulses emitted by the Void Swarm. In turn, the Crixan engineers equipped human vessels with plasma cannons and bioshields, forming hybrid ships capable of facing the swarm head-on. As tensions simmered in the preparation phase, moments of camaraderie began to emerge. A human mechanic shared a laugh with a Crixan engineer over the absurdity of a human coffee machine in a Crixan vessel's command room. The alien, perplexed by the aroma of roasted beans, found himself sampling the human drink. The reactions were a blend of surprise and grudging respect, each species discovering unexpected strengths and weaknesses in the other. The legendary Battle of Proxima Centauri II. The Void Swarm arrived in a wave, an endless cloud of dark, chitinous ships emitting a low, pulsating hum. Their approach sent shivers through even the bravest soldiers as their bioorganic ships absorbed and reconstituted energy. Every previous encounter had shown the Void Swarm's ruthlessness. They left no survivors, their strategy purely annihilative. From the command bridge of the flagship, Rax Thorn and General Reese exchanged a nod. Rax's claws flexed, gripping the controls, while Reese, resolute and calm, relayed orders to Earth's fleet. The battle was a symphony of organized chaos, with human and Crixan ships weaving through swarm formations in tandem, forming protective patterns that fused human adaptability with Crixan formation precision. Each species brought its own strengths to bear. Human vessels nimbly darted between the swarm, striking hard and falling back, while Crixan ships held strong, anchoring defense lines with disciplined ferocity. It was Reese who suggested the strategy that would tip the balance: a modified Crixan energy weapon combined with Earth's EMP technology, designed to disrupt the swarm's neural network, but the device had to be deployed directly into the swarm's core ship. Rax, realizing the risk, volunteered himself for the mission, leading a small team into the heart of the swarm's formation. The swarm ships converged on his vessel, their eerie pulsing echoing through his ship's hull as he fought his way through their ranks. In a moment that would become legend, Rax's team deployed the weapon, sending an EMP pulse rippling through the swarm's neural network. For a brief instant, the Void Swarm faltered. That hesitation was all humanity and the Crixans needed. Coordinated bombardments tore through the swarm's lines, scattering its forces. Rax's vessel was hit, alarms blaring as his ship sustained critical damage. But before he lost consciousness, he witnessed the swarm retreat, scattering like ashes in the wind. The battle was won. A bond forged in sacrifice. When Rax awoke, it was in a medical bay on a human vessel. General Reese was there, watching over him. The general gave a solemn nod of gratitude, his eyes filled with an unspoken respect. The victory at Proxima Centauri 2 marked a turning point for both species. The threat of the Void Swarm had been repelled, but at a great cost. Yet, from the ashes of this battle, a new alliance was born, one not merely of convenience, but of mutual respect and camaraderie. For the first time, the Crixan Empire found its purpose beyond conquest. They had something worth protecting alongside humanity. And with the swarm defeated, Earth and the Empire both knew that their shared future depended on keeping the galaxy safe together. The birth of the Joint Defense Force. In the aftermath of Proxima Centauri 2, both human and Crixan fleets limped home, their numbers depleted but their spirits unbroken. The battle had left scars, both physical and emotional, but it had also laid the foundation for something far greater than either species had ever anticipated. With the galaxy's survival at stake, representatives from Earth's Joint Defense Force and the Crixan High Command met to formalize their alliance. The result was an unprecedented initiative, the Joint Defense Force, a coalition dedicated to mutual protection and the defense of all sentient life in the galaxy. For the first time in history, humanity and the Crixan Empire would operate as equals, working side by side to preserve the delicate balance of interstellar peace. The Ceremony of Alliance. The official formation of the Joint Defense Force was held aboard the Beacon of Unity, a colossal Crixan dreadnought that had been repurposed to serve as a symbol of the alliance. High-ranking officials, diplomats, and military leaders from both sides gathered in the ship's grand hall, a chamber lined with banners displaying the insignias of Earth and the Crixan Empire. Standing together before a massive assembly of humans and Crixans were Admiral Vex Blackclaw and General Alan Reese. They looked out over the assembled troops, their faces solemn. Reese, his steel-gray eyes sharp and unwavering, took a step forward to address the crowd. "Today, we stand as allies," Reese declared, his voice carrying strength and conviction. "The Void Swarm showed us that we are stronger together than apart. Together, humanity and the Crixan Empire defied an enemy that has consumed worlds and brought ancient empires to ruin." Admiral Blackclaw, standing beside Reese, added, 5,000 years of Crixan tradition was built on conquest and pride, and we believed strength lay in domination. But in you, we saw the power of compassion and resilience. Commander Jessica Chen's sacrifice taught us that true strength is found in unity and that protection is a calling, not a duty of the strong over the weak. As he spoke, images of Commander Chen and her fateful last stand flickered across the hall's viewscreens, her face a lasting reminder of what had been lost and gained. Together, Reese and Blackclaw raised the newly designed insignia of the Joint Defense Force, a symbol of Earth's unity and Crixan might woven together. The crowd erupted into applause, a thunderous acknowledgement of a new era. For the first time, Humans and Crixans cheered not in opposition, but in shared purpose. A new kind of training. With the alliance formalized, soldiers from both sides were paired in training exercises, each expected to learn the strengths, tactics, and vulnerabilities of their counterparts. Humans were astonished by the discipline and strength of the Crixans, while the Crixans marveled at humanity's creativity, especially their tendency to improvise under pressure. One such exercise involved Commander Rax Thorn himself. Known for his cold precision in combat, Rax found himself paired with Lieutenant Sarah Delaney, a sharp-witted pilot and a bit of a maverick. Delaney's ship was a patched-together marvel of Earth ingenuity, loaded with a mix of human and Crixan technology. Rax initially resisted the chaotic nature of human tactics, baffled by Delaney's unorthodox methods, but as they maneuvered through a simulated asteroid field, he began to understand the brilliance behind her seemingly reckless moves. She pushed her ship to the limit, twisting and darting between the asteroids, firing at simulated targets with an almost playful ease. "Relax, Rax," Delaney joked over the calm. "Sometimes, you have to feel your way through the chaos." Rax grunted, a reluctant smirk crossing his normally stoic face. "Crixans do not feel their way. We calculate and execute." "But," he trailed off, a newfound appreciation glinting in his eyes, "I can see the value in adapting." The exercise was a success, with both Rax and Delaney emerging from the simulation with a newfound respect for each other's approaches. They became a model for what the Joint Defense Force represented, a fusion of Crixan precision and human adaptability. The Void Swarm returns. Months passed, with the Alliance proving effective in stabilizing borders and defending against minor threats. But soon, scattered reports of the Void Swarm reappearing in distant sectors reached the Joint Defense Force. Initial skirmishes confirmed their fears. The Void Swarm had returned, stronger and more numerous than before. In an emergency meeting, the leaders of the Joint Defense Force gathered to discuss the strategy. On one side of the roundtable sat General Reese, flanked by Earth's top tactical advisors. On the other sat Admiral Vex Blackclaw and Commander Raxthorn, representing the Crixan High Command. Reese was the first to speak. "The Void Swarm has grown more aggressive. If we're going to stand a chance, we need to strike at their heart. We have to find their hive, their queen." Admiral Vex nodded thoughtfully. "And we'll need a team capable of infiltrating that deep. Our sensors are no match for the Swarm's cloaking technology. Only human intuition and adaptability can guide us through their defenses." Rax Thorn leaned forward, addressing the assembly. "I volunteer for the mission. I have fought the Swarm before, and I understand their patterns. But I will need a human to accompany me, someone with Delaney's unorthodox approach." Reese turned to Delaney, who was already grinning. "Sir," she said, barely containing her excitement, "you couldn't keep me away." The mission was clear. Delaney and Rax would lead a small, elite team into the heart of Void Swarm territory, aiming to locate and eliminate the Swarm Queen. It was a suicide mission, and they all knew it, but if it succeeded, it would cripple the Void Swarm, giving the Joint Defense Force a fighting chance. Into the heart of darkness, the stealth cruiser Vanguard, outfitted with the latest hybrid Crixan human tech, departed under cover of night, its hull cloaked to avoid detection by Swarm sensors. On board were Rax, Delaney, and a small team of elite human and Crixan soldiers, each one prepared for the grim reality that they might never return. As they approached the coordinates of the Swarm Hive, the Void Swarm vessels closed in. The Vanguard wove between them, Delaney's piloting skills keeping them just out of reach. Inside the cruiser, tension ran high as they moved deeper into hostile space. In the silence, Rax looked to Delaney, who maintained her focus on the controls. "I admit, I am uncertain about this mission," he said, surprising even himself with the confession. "In my time as a commander, I've never faced an enemy that seemed endless." Delaney grinned, sparing him a quick glance. "Welcome to humanity's world. We're always the underdogs, but that's what makes us good at surviving." The Vanguard reached the Swarm's central hive, a massive, pulsating structure that dwarfed their cruiser. It was surrounded by thousands of Swarm vessels, patrolling in chaotic patterns that shifted and reformed constantly. Delaney inhaled sharply. "That's it, Rax, that's their queen." As they approached the hive, alarms blared. Their cloaking had failed. Swarm ships swarmed toward them, but Rax and Delaney stayed calm, maneuvering toward a narrow opening on the hive's surface. The plan was simple. They would inject a modified viral weapon into the Swarm's neural core, a payload designed to shut down the Queen's control over her army. the Vanguard penetrated the hive's surface, shuddering as swarm drones latched onto its hull. Delaney piloted them down a winding tunnel, steering past fleshy walls and bioluminescent veins that pulsed with the hive's heartbeat. At the end of the tunnel, they reached the core, a throbbing, gelatinous mass that served as the Queen's neural center. With precise timing, Rax activated the viral payload, injecting it directly into the core. The effect was immediate. A shudder ran through the hive as the swarm's connection to the Queen wavered. The drones on their hull went limp, and throughout the hive, chaos erupted as swarm ships collided and lost coordination. But the Queen, weakened but alive, turned her attention on them. An anguished, psychic scream tore through their minds, almost causing Delaney to lose control. With swift hands, she pushed the Vanguard back up the tunnel, fighting against the Queen's last, desperate attempts to crush them. As they burst free of the hive, Rax and Delaney watched as the Void swarm ships, now leaderless, scattered and fell into disarray. Their mission had succeeded. The return of heroes. The Vanguard returned to the Beacon of Unity to a hero's welcome. Rax Thorn and Lieutenant Delaney stepped out of the cruiser, greeted by thunderous applause from both humans and Crixans. The victory had cost them dearly, but the Swarm Queen's death had bought the galaxy precious time. Admiral Vex Blackclaw and General Reese approached them, their faces filled with pride and gratitude. Vex clapped a clawed hand on Rax's shoulder. "You've shown us a new way to fight, Rax, one where we rely not just on strength, but on the strength of those beside us." Reese extended a hand to Delaney. "Your flying saved us all, and your bravery taught the galaxy what true alliance looks like." As Rax and Delaney stood amid the cheering crowd, the future of the Joint Defense Force was clear. What had begun as a fragile alliance born from necessity had blossomed into an unbreakable bond. Together, humanity and the Crixan Empire had not only saved each other but had forged a new path for all species in the galaxy. They were no longer conquerors and defenders, they were guardians. The seeds of a new galactic order. With the defeat of the Void Swarm, the galaxy entered a period of peace, albeit a tentative one. The Joint Defense Force had proven that unity between species was possible, and the alliance between Earth and the Crixan Empire set a powerful precedent. This victory, however, was only the beginning. New challenges lay ahead as the fragile coalition sought to secure lasting peace across the galaxy. The threat of new enemies and internal tensions among allies was ever present. Admiral Vex Blackclaw and General Alan Reese, now celebrated as heroes, turned their attention to maintaining the unity forged through battle. Both leaders understood that survival depended on more than just military strength. It required empathy, mutual respect, and the ability to see past differences. Building a coalition of the willing. In the aftermath of the Swarm's defeat, other species took notice. The Joint Defense Force became a symbol of hope, attracting delegations from neighboring star systems. First came the Tavari, a race of scholars who had long avoided interstellar conflict, followed by the Roller, a species known for their powerful biotech. Even the Zalar, a species of traders and merchants once hostile to humans, arrived at the negotiating table. Admiral Blackclaw and General Reese led the negotiations with a singular vision: to create a coalition where all species could contribute to a shared defense, each offering unique skills and perspectives. However, not all species were eager to join the alliance. Some viewed the Crixans with suspicion, remembering the Empire's centuries of conquest, while others doubted humanity's endurance. Yet, as species after species signed on, the coalition took shape. Rax Thorn, who had once seen humans as mere adversaries, found himself working alongside them as an equal and a friend. His time with Lieutenant Delaney had profoundly changed him. He now saw humanity's adaptability, humor, and resilience not as primitive quirks but as strengths that could elevate the galaxy. Rising threats and internal strife. Years passed, and as the coalition grew, so did its challenges. Not all species could easily work together. Cultural clashes erupted within the Joint Defense Force, from disagreements over strategy to conflicting values. The Tavari, who valued peaceful solutions, often clashed with the warrior-driven Crixans. The Zalar merchants were quick to criticize humans for their reckless tactics, and even among the Crixans, there were dissenters who resented this new path of cooperation. Commander Raxthorn found himself in the middle of these tensions, working tirelessly to bridge the gap between ideologies. Delaney became his trusted advisor and close friend, often bringing a dose of levity to tense situations. Together, they taught their allies the value of compromise and the power of unity. But as these internal struggles played out, Another threat loomed in the shadows. The rise of the Eldris. Rumors began to spread of a mysterious force known only as the Eldris. The Eldris were an ancient, elusive species shrouded in myth, said to be the galaxy's oldest civilization. According to legend, they were powerful and ruthless, masters of psionics who could manipulate minds and twist reality itself. Though the stories were vague, they all shared one theme: the Eldris had no tolerance for alliances. To them, unity among species threatened the natural order of the galaxy. The first encounter came when a scouting vessel from the Joint Defense Force disappeared without a trace. The last transmission from the ship hinted at a strange gravitational anomaly and an encounter with ships unlike any ever documented. As reports mounted, Admiral Blackclaw, General Reese, and the coalition leaders convened in an emergency meeting. It was clear the Eldris were real, and they were watching. While no direct attacks had occurred, the Eldris had sent a chilling message through a captured scout, delivered under a psionic trance. Disband your alliance, or face annihilation. The galaxy belongs to the strongest alone. A final stand at the galactic rim. Realizing the severity of the threat, the Joint Defense Force prepared for war once more. They strengthened defenses, reinforced their ships with Crixan armor and human-designed energy shields, and trained for psionic countermeasures. The Eldris, however, were not like any enemy they had faced. They moved through space as if guided by unseen currents, and their psychic abilities allowed them to manipulate the minds of entire crews. Rax Thorn and Lieutenant Delaney were tasked with leading the first line of defense at the galactic rim, where the Eldris were expected to strike. The Crixan commander had grown into his role as a defender, driven by a sense of duty and friendship he had never known before. This time, he wasn't fighting to conquer or prove his strength, he was fighting to protect something he truly believed in. The Eldris fleet arrived in a wave, their ships sleek and silent, almost ghostly in appearance. Unlike the chaotic swarm of the void, the Eldris moved with a cold, calculated precision. Their opening assault struck hard and fast, but the Joint Defense Force was ready. As Rax directed his fleet, Delaney coordinated the ground defense, guiding their troops with a calm, commanding presence. The battle was brutal, with the Eldris wielding not only physical weapons but psionic attacks that disrupted communications, sowed confusion, and manipulated perception. Entire sections of the fleet found themselves firing upon illusions, or worse, turning on each other. But humanity's ingenuity and the Crixans' resilience held strong. Earth's engineers had developed psionic inhibitors, small devices worn by each soldier to shield their minds. These inhibitors were experimental, but in the heat of battle, they proved effective enough to hold back the worst of the Eldris influence. At the height of the battle, the Eldris released their flagship, a colossal vessel, radiating an aura of palpable dread. From within, their leader emerged, a towering figure clad in dark, flowing robes. His eyes glowed with a sinister light as he addressed the coalition forces through their own comm systems. "Your alliance defies the order of the galaxy," he declared, his voice a haunting whisper that seemed to reverberate in the minds of every soldier. "In your weakness, you cling together. But unity is a lie. Only the strong survive." General Reese's voice cut through the silence. "Then you've underestimated what strength really is." The last gamble. In a desperate final move, Rax Thorn and Delaney devised a daring plan. They would use the Vanguard, the ship that had once infiltrated the Void Swarm, to penetrate the Eldris flagship. Their goal was to disrupt its psionic core, the device that allowed their leader to command and manipulate his fleet. The mission was perilous, and everyone knew it was likely a one-way trip. Rax and Delaney boarded the Vanguard, steeling themselves for what could be their final mission. As they approached the flagship, they could feel the Eldris leader's presence pressing into their minds, an overwhelming force of pure hostility. With a final push, they breached the Eldris ship, navigating its labyrinthine corridors until they reached the core, a massive crystal pulsing with psionic energy. Working together, they planted a detonation device designed to overload the core. But before they could finish, the Eldris leader appeared, his eyes burning with fury. "You think you can disrupt the will of the Eldris?" he sneered. "Your alliance is nothing but a fragile illusion." Delaney, battered and exhausted, managed to grin. "Maybe. But it's our illusion. And we're making it real." In a final act of defiance, she activated the detonation device. The explosion rippled through the Eldris ship, shattering the psionic core and sending shockwaves across the battlefield. With the core destroyed, the Eldris lost their grip over their forces. Their ships faltered, vulnerable and exposed. The Joint Defense Force seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated assault that decimated the Eldris fleet. The once invincible foe crumbled before them. The legacy of unity. The battle left deep scars, but it also cemented the coalition's legacy. Rax Thorn and Lieutenant Delaney were hailed as heroes, their story immortalized in songs and stories across countless worlds. The Eldris threat had been defeated, but more importantly, a new foundation had been laid. The galaxy now knew the strength that could be found in unity. Back aboard the Beacon of Unity, Admiral Vex Blacklaw and General Reese addressed their troops. Vex's voice carried a note of pride and humility. Today, we proved that strength is not in isolation or power alone, but in the courage to stand together, even when the odds are impossible. General Reese added, humanity may have once been seen as weak, but alongside our allies, we have shown that resilience, creativity, and unity are a force that no empire, no enemy, can ever break. Rax Thorn and Delaney, standing side by side, looked out over the assembly, knowing that this was just the beginning of a new chapter for both humans and Crixans. Epilogue. Years later, statues were erected on both Earth and Crixa Prime, depicting human and Crixan soldiers standing together, honoring the alliance that had saved them all. The Joint Defense Force evolved into a permanent peacekeeping coalition, its members sworn to protect not just their homeworlds, but the balance of the galaxy. From that point on, whenever a new threat arose, the galaxy's citizens would look to humanity and the Crixan Empire as examples of how even the most unlikely alliances could change the course of history. And for generations to come, children would hear the tales of Rax Thorn, Jessica Chen, and Sarah Delaney, heroes who proved that unity was the galaxy's greatest strength. The Crixan Empire and Earth, once enemies, now stood as guardians, a legacy that would endure as long as the stars themselves.